South Africa, a nation not weakened by our differences, but strengthened by them. When we connect around our shared passions and bring all our differences together, then we are unstoppable. It's go time, Bokke. It's go time, Zanzi.
MTN Fireside chat ahead of the eagerly awaited first test between the Springboks and the British and Irish Lions this coming weekend. It's a great pleasure to be joined by two Springbok legends in the studio with us today. They both played a vital role in South Africa's forward pack when they last welcomed the British and Irish Lions to our shores back in 2009. To my left, Bakkies Botha played 85 tests at lock for the Springboks between 2002 and 2014. And of course, Pierre Spies amassed 53 test caps at number 8 for South Africa. It's great to have you with us, gents. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. We'll also be getting a former Springbok wing, Odwa Ndungane, online with us during the show, who also played against the Lions back in 2009. And we thought it would be great to get one of South Africa's most experienced referees to chat about the challenges of being the man officiating these heated tests. So we're looking forward to speaking to Mark Lawrence as well. Of course, you can get involved in this fireside chat. Feel free to drop any burning questions you have in the chat panel, and I'll do my best to pass them along to our guests to answer as we go through the show. All right, I'm going to take you guys back in time in just a little bit, but I'd like to find out what you guys have been doing since you hung up the boots a few years ago. Pierre, maybe we can start with you. I understand you're involved in ministry now, that's correct?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity also being here tonight. I finished in 2017, played in France. I had the opportunity to play there in Montpellier. And then after finishing my career there, I came back to South Africa. So I started with Christian ministry, so becoming a pastor in Pretoria in CRC Church, and finishing my studies, and just loving the journey. It's been a great transition from playing into life after rugby. But just very thankful, to have had a great career, and now, sitting here tonight, sharing the stage with you guys.
You mentioned that transition away from rugby. Do you miss the game at all?
Not really. I think when you close the book, you really have to close it. So I don't miss it. I can, identify with the emotions and everything that the guys have. And when I see it, I'm just very thankful, and I can be reminded of it. But don't miss the game. It's a new chapter in our lives. So, but it's a very big privilege to be able to have a professional career, as a player. So just very thankful. And then, not missing the bumps and bruises. So, yeah.
Bakkies, you might be missing the bumps and bruises. to tell me if I'm wrong, what are you doing with yourself?
Yes, I finished up my career in 2015, just before the World Cup. I decided, listen, it's time for me. 17 years of professional rugby. I think it's a blessed time for me, and I decided to retire. I'm fully now, almost 6 years now, retired from international rugby and a rugby career. My last few years in Toulon, the south of France, was a great time. But now I'm fully farming into the cattle industry up in Limpopo, and doing a little bit of mining as well. So I'm just enjoying the time. My time is my time. I can schedule my diary as I am. So that's just awesome, and to be at home and with my wife and kids and just enjoying it, and especially during these challenging times. It's amazing just to be at home and to be there for everybody and the community around you. And to be here tonight is wonderful, and just to share a few medical aid certificates, the way we did it back in the days, and then looking forward to this weekend, first test match against the British and Irish Lions and the Springboks.
Just before we chat about the British and Irish Lions, I just wanted to pick your brain, both of you, because you guys finished off your careers in France. We had a chat with Nico Janssen van Rensburg yesterday, who obviously came into the Springbok camp recently. And he's a player that went across to Montpellier very early in his career. You guys finished your careers there. What is it about French rugby that's attracting so many rugby players to go there from South Africa?
Yeah, definitely. I think the era of rugby, and especially in South Africa, changed dramatically, and especially financially wise. I think there's a lot of challenges financially wise, and the rules and regulations for rugby players changed so much because it's not a long time ago, 5-6 years, I was still playing, and there were still rules at SA Rugby. Listen here, only 2 to 4 players that they can pick aboard. But now that rules has changed a lot. They're signing deals now in South Africa, combined deal like a Japan or South Africa deal or France. Guys rather go to France to earn good money, but still available for the Springboks. You can see now this weekend how many players is in the starting lineup and even on the bench that play their rugby aboard. But definitely, specifically French rugby is still a little bit slower and more physically wise. Yeah, it's a wonderful league to participate in. That last 4-5 years that I participate in Toulon and brought a few more trophies home. It was a wonderful journey for me. So be part of that was wonderful. It's like Pierre said, just to be part of the history, even if you're a Springbok and you played overseas, it's just a blessing.
And Jake White was obviously at Montpellier when you went there, Pierre. Did that play a big role in you saying, hey, let me go and play some rugby in France?
Yeah, and I think Jake signed about 15 or 20 South African players, which made it really difficult for us to learn French, actually.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, you know, the opportunity to play overseas and then to experience a new culture and a different style of rugby and culture of rugby is amazing. So playing in France exposes you to, you know, their culture. They've got a very, you know, big rugby culture. They've got about 4 leagues of rugby that you can play, earning money. And then obviously there's these massive camaraderie actually after games, these massive functions after every match. So it's a complete different setup. And I think players look for opportunity. So if they don't get the right opportunities, obviously in South Africa, and they get one abroad, they'll probably go because they'll earn a lot more money. They'll have the experience, and you know, it's life experience and playing experience. And then now with the rules changed, they can still play for the Boks.
I think that perception has changed a lot with guys going overseas. It's just an accepted thing, and you know, it's actually making our players better. I'm going to transition now to the British and Irish Lions. Obviously, every player that becomes a Springbok wants to be a world champion, but there's some intrigue, there's something special about the British and Irish Lions only coming around every 12 years. When you guys were players, were you aware of that fact? Was it a tour that you wanted to play in? Was it something that you wanted to tick off your list before you hung up your boots?
No, definitely. I think after every World Cup, I think a lot of players' deals or contracts is going to be renewed. Listen here, sit around the table, discuss it. And I think the new thing after a World Cup is, listen here, the British and Irish Lions is coming. In myself and Pierre's situation, it was 2 years after we won the World Cup in Paris. 2009, the British and Irish Lions came to South Africa. So that's the new big topic around it. They say, listen here, do you want to be part of it if you in shape or in form still that time? But definitely that was part of the dealing in contract-wise, and say, listen here, let's do the new contract. But we're in the mix for the 2009 British and Irish Lions. So definitely, it's a highlight, and to participate in something like that is amazing. And everybody say it, and the professional guys say it always. It's every 12 years, so it's actually special to be involved in a series like this. Participating this weekend again in the British and Irish Lions tour.
I had the privilege of going to Japan in 2019, and I covered the tournament right until the end. And in the post-match press conference, Russie literally said straight away, he was like, you know, I think it was like 400 and something days until the British and Irish Lions, you know, and it was already on their minds and they were already thinking about it. But Pierre, for you, obviously you missed out on that opportunity to be a world champion in 2007 because of correct me if I'm wrong, blood clots on the lungs. You recovered from that a couple of years later. How important was the British and Irish Lions for you to kind of get a taste of the success that all your mates and your teammates had tasted a few years before that?
Yeah, look, I think any player after being sidelined by a serious injury is just glad when they get back on the field again. And then, yeah, we were part of a very special team, actually, you know, in the era of Springbok rugby. So it was very special for me just to get back on the field, firstly, but secondly, to step into this winning team after the World Cup was great again. So there was a lot of momentum, there was a lot of confidence in the team, settled players, and that makes it easier to play, a lot easier to play. So it was a great honour, a great time to play for the Springboks. So we are very, very happy to be back.
I'm going to shift it now to that first week of the British and Irish Lions test. That's what the players are gearing up for now. Bakkies, take us back to that week in 2009. How nervous were you guys? How excited were you guys? What was the talk in the camp? What was the focus? Because obviously you'd watched the British and Irish Lions play all the provincial sides before that first test.
Yeah, no, it was an amazing time. And like Pierre mentioned earlier, just that specific team from 2007 pulling through to 2009 was an amazing time, and we wanted to prove everybody in the world that there's a reason why we're world champs, and to participate in the British and Irish Lions, especially that first week. And we didn't know what to expect from them, so we just tick all the boxes, and the focus was phenomenal. Just to cut out all the outside medias and stuff like that, and just to go into this test and see what's going to happen, because again, you don't know what to expect in that first test, because you didn't play against them. You see the combinations that they picked for that first test match. Yeah, and we as a pack of forwards always know what we need to do to try on our strong points during that first test. And yeah, and the first tests were very tough. It was physically just to get stuck into to get it behind us and get onto the board and just pull it through. And I think just to put that first test through with a win, just put that more confidence into the team as well, and say, listen, yeah, we're moving to the second one. We've got one in the bag, one more to go. Let's give it all.
Pierre, John Smith was chatting about the first test in our first Fireside chat last week with Kola, and he mentioned that you guys caught the British and Irish Lions off guard with your intensity, your physicality in that first test. And off air, you guys were just mentioning to me that we've kind of played the first test because SAA played the Lions last week, and they actually got a taste of that Springbok physicality. You know, just looking at the first test, do you think that the Springboks will have that physical edge? Will they be able to take it up another level from what SAA did last week?
I think they will be able, but you know, the thing is now they've basically played one game already, and that was what was in our benefit in 2009. I don't think the Lions expected our level of intensity and so forth, and also the team that they chose, you know, was actually a team that played in our favour. And that's where we actually got dominance in the scrums, etc., etc. We built a big lead, early in the game. But now the first game has been played, I think. But there's going to be a lot of players also coming in from the Springboks. So the guys are an experienced bunch. They've got a lot of talent, and then there's a lot of continuity in the team. And I think when that Springbok pride kicks in, it's going to be a massive battle, but the boys are going to definitely pull it through. It's going to be a high-quality test match.
I wanted to touch on it a little bit earlier, but obviously after 2007, Peter de Villiers took over from Jake White. How much did your core group of players help in that transition period under a new coach? Obviously, a lot of the assistants were the same, but how important was that core group of players in eventually leading you guys to a 2009 win over the Lions?
No, it was huge. So momentum is everything, you know, and that's what we carried over from 2007, most of the guys. And then, you know, Peter de Villiers really managed to create a great environment for the players to operate in, you know, to get everybody functioning in their roles, creating a happy environment, but players being happy, perform at their best. We had a high work rate. And then, you know, we knew what worked for us, so we worked with that, and it was a great period. You know, 2009 especially was a great year because we won the Tri-Nations, also beating the All Blacks 3 times. So that group of players was, you know, the basis of it, coming from basically from 2004 when Jake White, you know, took over from Rudolf Stoyle. So it's been coming a while, and the core group of players always stayed the same. With John also being captain, etc. So that was a huge reason for our success.
I'm going to take this opportunity now to welcome Odwa Ndungane. I'm being told we're actually struggling to get Odwa on the line, so we will come back to him in just a second. We can go back to you, Bakkies, and your role over the years as an enforcer for the Springboks. And I found it a very intriguing role to play because you have to strike the balance between physicality and intensity, but not step over the line. Obviously, a few times you did step over the line, but how much did you enjoy that role, and how did you try and deal with it?
No, I didn't enjoy the role. I loved it.
You loved it.
So yeah, no, it was wonderful. I think just to play the enforcer role, just to get underneath your opponent's skins, and Pierre, I always say, Pierre mentioned it again, is forward momentum. As long as you get forward momentum, you create more space for your backs. And that was the main thing for me as an enforcer, just to get stuck into the rucks, getting quick ball so that the backs can play with it and create more space. So yeah, it was wonderful, and it's no different to play the British and Irish Lions. I remember the first Test match, John, he played. He played prop, not his first choice position.
Yep.
And we just sitting one evening in the room and said, listen, we need to clinch this thing. And he was familiar with prop, but not his first choice. And I said to him, listen, Johnny, just keep your back straight, my boot. We'll go forward. And yeah, that first test, and Beast just get stuck into the scrums, and we had a brilliant test match. And again, I think they didn't expect the physicality-wise, the level that we brought into that first test match. So yeah, it's always nice and beautiful if test matches getting physical. That's my food, and I love it.
You mentioned Beast being very young back then. That was when he first transitioned, into the Springbok into the Springbok mix as well. And I see some similarities between him and a guy like Oxenchair, who's now coming into the Bok fold and really, hoping to make the #1 jersey his own. What did you guys as senior players say to a guy like Beast coming into a test match like that? Because he destroyed Phil Vickery on the day. I think he ended up ending Phil Vickery's career on that day.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think especially a test series like this is just do what you're always normally doing. Don't try to do something differently. And the team, especially that Jacques and Russ and the guys picked this weekend, it's just it's a great pack, and they're definitely going to bring it physically wise. And I think they're going to definitely produce the goods. And I must be honest, I think they call themselves the Bomb Squad. I think that the last 20 minutes, it's going to be the clincher. I think it's going to be tough. But again, the guys that we have on the bench is they can decide. Jacques and the guys can decide. Listen, we're going to bring them on the last 20 minutes or last 30 minutes. But definitely the pack of forwards that the guys picked this weekend is going to be a physical battle. And I always say the Springbok thrives on their line-out drive, scrums, and then that box kick in the air battle. And where that ball comes down, they just want to make it brutal.
Yeah, Pierre, I spent all day watching all 3 of those tests just to jog my memory, and I've watched the second test many times. Rohan Pienaar was playing at fly-off, and he was also quite new into the Springbok mix. How did you guys deal with him coming in, playing such a pivotal role at 10? He ended up playing really well in that first test as well. I mean, was he someone you had to guide, or was Fourie du Preez really driving that for him?
Look, Ron is a quality player, so he, and in the Springbok setup, it doesn't matter who fits the jersey. The players really back him, and then Ron really played well. And then, like I said, he's a quality player, so everything basically just moved, because if he had to go off, Morne Steyn was his replacement, and himself and Morne are very good friends. So, I think Fourie always had a big influence on, the fly-off that played with him. In decision making, and I think it helped a lot. But again, like I say, I believe Rohan is still a great player, and he's always been he's still going, and he's always been a great player. So he suited in really well, and he deserved to be there.
I also found a very interesting battle, and if you go and watch the highlights, both of you had quite a few interactions with Mike Phillips at scrum off. He was quite an abrasive scrum off, quite big for a scrum off.
Still waiting for him.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you guys about that. I
I know why the combination is here tonight.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, 100%. Because you guys are really sorting him out, though. That's after those test matches. Did you guys have the aftermatch function? Did you have a beer with him? Did you chat it out, or was it kind of just all left on the field and no one really addressed what happened with Mike Phillips and all those?
There was some gatherings, but not with Mike himself. But I've heard he's a very good guy. I actually don't know him.
Okay.
But some people take on another persona when they get on the field.
Yes.
And he obviously had his goals, trying to get under our skin and so forth. But that's the way he plays.
Yep.
So, but there was after the game, there was actually some nice interaction with the other teams and the other players, which was actually very nice.
I must go with Pierre there. It's always the nines. I don't know what's wrong with the nines. The best nine I ever knew in my life is my own nine, Fourie Priya. He was a good nine. The rest is only troublemakers and stuff like that. Yeah, and there's a story running for many years now, the way incident that happened with me and Mike Phillips.
Yep.
Because he got stuck into that first 5 minutes, 10 minutes. We as a pack of forward, no, listen here, we need to put the foundation here.
Yeah.
Physically wise, we need to put the level up there. And yeah, I get stuck into that one ruck, keeping 2 or 3 guys busy, and he came over and I just took him with, and he was jumping up and looked me in the eyes, and I thought to myself, listen here, if you're going to say something to me now, I need to take the wind out of his sails. And he said to me, bloody hell, are you guys on steroids? And I thought, no, you can't talk. Is he talking to me? Looking here, looking there, see nobody next to me. And I thought, no, I must take the wind out of his sails. And I said, oh, you've got beautiful blue eyes.
I always wanted to ask you about that. Bakkies.
That was the incident. And yeah, now Mike Phillips is standing here on the British and Irish Lions test in front of the enforcer in World Rugby, and then the enforcer tells me I've got beautiful eyes.
Yeah.
So you need to get under his skin, that's the way. And I thought, listen, I need to get something soft out of the test.
Yeah.
And Victor said, is it true what you said to him just now? And he just walked off and he laughed. I said, don't worry, let's get stuck into the new ruck. So that's the stories that we is there for life. Every time we're sitting and people ask me, and that's stories that we're building for the day when we're old around the campfire, and that is what's the beauty is about rugby.
All right, just a reminder once again, if you are watching and joining us this evening, you're welcome to drop some questions in the comments panel below. I will be asking Bakkies and Spies those questions. Just to finish off with the first test, how important was it winning that first test for you guys, and how important is it going to be for the Springboks to try and do that this weekend, Bakkies?
No, it's going to be, that's going to be everything, because in any competition, in any tournament, the first thing that you want to create is momentum. And again, we said it earlier, they felt each other already in the SAA Lions test match. So I think this one is going to be crucial. I think the team that's going to pull this one through is going to be very, very difficult to beat in the second test. So coming this weekend, it's going to be all or nothing, just to get that momentum going for the team that's going to win the test match at the end of the day.
What do you remember when that first test finished? Did it feel like you guys have really taken a big mental, positive going into the second?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I think, that's the sad thing about the COVID situation, that there's no crowds involved, because that brings such a big element to the game. Because the British Irish Lions have a massive base of support that's coming with them, and that won't be here. But even our Springboks won't have our home supporters with them. But when we played our first test, when the game started, the first 20-30 minutes, we took the wind out of the sails of the British Lions. And slowly but surely they came back into the game. And then the last 10 minutes we had to fight it out. Yep. And then we closed the game out and we won it luckily. So, but then both teams have felt one another out. The second match, we started on the back foot from the first minute.
You were chasing the game for a long time.
Yeah, so we had that yellow card with Skulk, and then we were chasing the game the whole time for the first 60 minutes. But again, that showed the quality of the team, and then just the quality of the test match. It played out all the way up until the 80th minute, and that's probably what it's going to take again, because it's it's two quality teams playing one another, and it's going to be a battle for 80 minutes, and anything can actually happen. It can be decided in moments, and that second test was won in that single moment from that penalty on Free de Pria with Odwa Ndungane, and Morne kicked it over, and the series was clinched. So it's going to be the table is set for a great series.
All right, you made mention of Skalk's yellow card, and we're not going to talk too much about it, but just to address what it's like from the referee's side of officiating a test match like this, we're going to bring in Mark Lawrence, a former South African referee. He's still very much involved in refereeing. Mark Lawrence joining us this evening. Mark, how are you doing?
Gareth, good to see you guys, and good to see Pierre and Bakkies, legends of the game. We do miss you down here in Durban. I noticed you don't have a jersey on, and I know you've moved to Joburg, mate. We'll chip in for you soon.
No, I traded in the warmth of Durban for the cold of Joburg, and I'm paying for it bitterly. Mark, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I think you're going to add a very interesting, dimension to this discussion, just in terms of a referee approaching games like this. But just before we chat about that, won't you tell us what you're currently doing in your life, if you're still involved in training referees and in the world of rugby?
Yeah, Gareth. I hung up my whistle in 2012, and for my sins, they decided to give me 7 full-time referees to coach and manage. And so the days of worrying about one game, my game on a weekend, are now sort of multiplied. I have 7 games to worry about, so you can imagine what that's like. But a privilege to work with the referees. They're a strong bunch. The pressure these days is massive. The calls are big. And it's just good to see how professional refereeing has grown. I mean, these guys run, train. They can run as fast as the players these days, you know. So we do a lot of work with referees. There's a lot of pressure on their shoulders. So I'm now the high performance manager, heading up the referees for South Africa.
All right, so you make mention of the high pressure environment that these referees are involved in. Correct me if I'm wrong, you haven't, or you didn't officiate a Lions test match, whether it was against the All Blacks or Australia. Obviously, none of the South African referees officiate the Springbok tests. Just coming into games like these, if we go back and we look at 2009, just how physical it was, guys like Bakkies climbing into the Lions, as the man in the middle with the whistle in your hands, how difficult is it to keep things under control when these guys are literally trying to rip each other's heads off?
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I'd refereed British and Irish Lions against Western Province, so I did have a taste there, and I was very fortunate to be involved in New Zealand as a TMO and as an assistant referee, which also had fond memories. We had Brian O'Driscoll being tipped on his head, and all the drama that created. And going into 2009, what an absolutely wonderful experience to have this in our backyard, to actually be involved with them, and actually to see the Springboks beat them, which was amazing. They're a tough little outfit. So, fortunate to be involved, and and to enjoy the pressure that all brings, because I did the Western Province game, and a penalty decided the outcome. I penalised the prop in the scrum. They kicked the conversion and won 26-23. So that's the pressure we sometimes go under as referees.
If memory serves correctly, that was Willem de Waal who kicked that penalty, if I remember correctly. I'm not quite sure. Just in terms of these big match situations, having to deal with an incident like Skalks in the first minute or two of that second test. What goes through a referee's mind when you're looking at something on the board and you're seeing something that could potentially be a red card, knowing that, hey, if I pull that card out of my pocket, this might just ruin the contest altogether? I mean, how much is going through a referee's mind with thousands of fans screaming as well?
No, the pressure is massive. In fact, I think it's got to the stage where it's almost too much for one person. So we obviously have what we call a team of 4. So we have the referee, we have the 2 assistant referees, and a TMO. On top of that, we've got this wonderful split screen technology where you actually have, the main screen, a delayed screen for the TMO to double check on the run while play is going, a few seconds delay, and then split screen technology where you literally have 8 or 9 camera angles that you can go and check on a decision. So we have about 5 officials now that have to officiate on a given decision. In my day, you could only use the TMO, was it a try or not a try? These days, you obviously use your assistant referees and your TMOs for foul play and all those kind of things that happen. That's perhaps just too quick for a single human being, and just too quick in the modern game, which is now so fast. So we have all that technology available, and more than one person refereeing a game.
I'm just going to bring the Springboks, the veterans, back in here in this conversation. What do you guys remember about Schalk getting that yellow in that first minute? And what was said as soon as he went off the field when you had, 14 men for 10 minutes right at the beginning of the game? Bakkies, maybe you can take it first.
Yeah, no, it was a break. It happened at a breakdown, and then they referred it to the TMO, and they said, listen, here, there was a hand in the face, and they gave Schalk a yellow. So we just got together, and John said, listen, here, let's ease stuff up. Let's move slowly to the line-outs, and just to play the time out that Schalk can come back, but just to stay focused again and not lose focus with one less player on the pitch. And the focus was just a double up when Schalk went off. And that's so special about the team we played in. And Pierre said it earlier as well. Sometimes we're 12 or 15 points behind, and sometimes with one guy less on the pitch, but we still believed in each other and say, listen, it doesn't matter what's going to happen now, but we're going to pull this test through. And with that attitude in the team and between the players, we achieve a lot as a team, especially that 2009 season.
Mark, just going back to you, obviously a lot has changed in terms of officiating and how we look at collisions in particular. One of the biggest collisions in that game, and you guys all remember it a lot better than I will because you were on the field, when Brian O'Driscoll shot out the line. And he knocked out Donnie Rousseau, and I think no one could believe it that Brian O'Driscoll was the man to knock him out. But you go and look at the footage, it was such a massive contact. It also wasn't malicious either. Brian O'Driscoll shoots out the line, and they have a head clash. And there's Donnie Rousseau on the turf. Things have changed now, Mark. How would a collision like that change the complexion of a test match, knowing what we know now about the no acceptance policy of head clashes?
Oh, for sure. Look, player safety is paramount for us and their well-being. In my day, you could play the game and you could probably lose the fight and or lose the game and win the fight, and it was a great day. In today's times with what they call a head contact process, there are stringent guidelines into what players are allowed to do or not allowed to do. And in a situation like that, what we're actually trying to do is take the speed of that tackle away, not necessarily the physicality, but we want to take the speed away and make sure that player, as in O'Driscoll's case, he's in control of his actions, he's wrapping, and he's tackling. Play it physically, play it hard, but be in control of your actions. If you're not, and you slip up and you make head contact, then unfortunately you're probably looking at some form of card. If it's direct to the head, it'll be a red card, and if it's sort of indirect, where it sort of hits on the chest and slaps up, you probably get away with a yellow card. So there is a lot of emphasis on coaching tackle technique now, and to make sure that the tackler does a level change. Come hard, come fast, but be in control of your actions and make sure you don't make contact with the head.
All right, Mark, thank you so much for joining us on the line today. I think we're going to let you go because you've weighed in on what it is to be a referee in these big match situations. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us, and thank you for looking after the next generation of referees as well. We are going to welcome our other Springbok legend.
Thanks, Mark.
There we go, Bakkies. Saying goodbye to Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
We're going to get Odwa in on this conversation now because we made mention of Schalk's yellow card. When he came back onto the field, he ran onto the field, he joined you guys at the line-out, and from that line-out, JP Peterson scored a try off first phase. And this is where I want to bring Odwa into the conversation, because obviously he was working with all the backline players. But before we get into the rugby, Odwa, how are you doing tonight, joining us from Durban?
How's it, Gareth? Thanks so much for inviting me. And how's it to the boys there in studio, Bakkies and Pierre? I haven't seen them in a long time, but it's nice to see them virtually. And yeah, it's good to see everyone.
Hi, Od.
Fantastic. Odwa, maybe you can just give our viewers a sense of what you're doing now that you've hung up the boots. I think you were the last out of the three of you to say goodbye to the game.
Yeah, no, I went on quite long, you know. So I actually retired in 2017, and when I finished, I actually wanted a clean breakaway from the sport. You know, when you've played rugby for so long and given it everything that you can, you sometimes just want to break away from it and do something completely different. And I got into business, so I started a construction company, and it's been going well. It's something different. It's challenging, especially in the times that we find ourselves in, but it's something that I'm enjoying and looking forward to learning and growing. And you know, the company that we have, you know, it's based in Durban, but looks at operations nationally. But I still keep quite a keen eye on the game, and you know, I'm still a big fan of the sport. And what a big game we have this weekend, one that I'm so looking forward to.
100%, and I think we can all agree that your insights that you give on various broadcasting platforms is very much appreciated. Just going back to that rugby and JP Peterson's first try off that first phase, how much was that practiced by the Springbok backline in the lead up to that first test? And realistically, are we going to see that kind of try, considering how much defences have improved over the last few years?
I think, you know, looking back in that game, that try came actually at the right time. You know, we were under pressure in the game. You know, the Lions were on top of us. You know, they really stood up in that second test, and you could see they wanted it quite desperately. And, you know, to your question, it's stuff that we do quite a lot when we have our unit session. You know, so we train those plays, and at practice, most of the time they work out so beautifully, and you didn't expect them to work out so nicely in a test match, purely because of how defense is so good and how it's so structured. But, you know, I must say the guys ran the lines perfectly, because, you know, it's JP had quite an easy job, but just to run straight into the big gap. But Fourie, the work that Fourie did in that play, you know, coming out so wide and putting doubt into that defensive line, because most of the time when you attack the vacuum, that's when the defensive side would depend on the guys at the back of the line now to assist them. But, you know, it was a perfectly executed play, which was needed at that time when JP went through for that try.
I just want to switch over to your role in that 2009 British and Irish Lions tour. You only ended up playing in the third and final test. Just as a player who was involved only in that last test, how important is it for the wider squad to be switched on at trainings and helping the guys that are actually in the match day 23 prepare as best they can for a big test like this weekend?
It's massive, Gareth, you know, because at the end of the day, all of us are there with the goal of being successful. You know, be it you are starting, be it you're on the bench, or be it you in the stand. Everyone has a huge role to play, and I think the biggest thing is the communication that comes from the coaches makes it and gets everyone to buy in. And you know that your role either if you are starting or you're on the bench or you're part of the bigger group, you have a massive role. You keep the guys that are starting on the toes, because competition is what makes teams successful. And having a bigger squad and where people are competing quite hard for positions, which I think is what we are seeing currently with the current Springboks. There's one or two guys that are perhaps guaranteed a place in the team. But in most positions, anyone can start and still do the job. So a squad is very important, and I think it's no different now. And they always you're pushing each other in the team, and it's good for competition. And we knew that we had to be always positive, motivated, and always keeping the guys focused, cheering them on as loud as we could. So at the end of the day, it is a squad effort. So it's important for players that are not playing to always be positive and always be cheering the other guys that are starting.
We take a look at the Springbok squad back then, and if you go and watch those games, you'll see yourself sitting next to Jongi Nokwe in the stands in that first test. I now look at the current squad, and guys like Aphelele Fassi are the youngsters on the block, the guys that have a big, bright future ahead of them. I'm sure you know Aphelele from your days with the Sharks as well. What do you make of him as a player? He made his debut a week or so ago against Georgia. He scored a try on debut as well. Fantastic player. Very, very bright prospect for South Africa.
He is indeed. And, he's one of those players that is quite exciting to watch. And, he's definitely an X-factor player. And for what has impressed me the most, for someone who's actually quite young, he looks so confident and composed, and, which is something that is really special to see from a young player. Because most of the times when you put a young player in a big stage, he gets flustered and he looks nervous. But Aphelele is quietly confident, and I think we saw his talent come through when he played his first test against Georgia, and he's definitely one for the future. He's done well for his union at the Sharks, and he's been consistent. He's been one of the players that's always dangerous, that sparks something from the back. And so I have no doubt that he's got a huge role to play in this series and also going forward. And I'm sure Jacques and his coaching staff will have been working hard with him. And when they feel that he's ready for that next step up, they will definitely give him an opportunity. I don't think he's going to let himself or the team down. He's actually quite talented, but I quite like the competition that we have currently, with him and Makazole and Cheslin and Sbu. So any of those guys can get selected on any given day and still do the job. So I think we're actually in a good healthy space in those outside backs.
Before we move on to chatting about the team list, we've got quite a few questions coming through on the YouTube channel. So thank you for those, and keep them coming through. We will try and get to as many of them as we can. I'm going to start off with this. Maybe Pierre, you can start and just consider this one. The tests are going to be played at sea level now. We've agreed to play all 3 tests in Cape Town. How much does that take away from having the British and Irish Lions come up to Loftus or Ellis Park and feel that burn in the lungs?
Oh, look, I don't think it plays a big role anymore. I think the guys are prepared for it. They train at altitude, and now even with technology and preparation, the guys go into the test knowing that altitude is going to be a big challenge. But playing at sea level, will probably benefit us a bit more, because now we've been used to training at altitude. So no, but I mean the playing field is even, so you have to battle it out for 80 minutes.
Okay, another thing, evening out the playing field. And you guys didn't have any experience with this. Empty stadiums. I mean, that must be a terrible thing, Bakkies.
Yeah, no, I think it's one of the challenges, especially during this challenging times, especially because every single player going through a week to compete at the highest level, but a lot of players pull a lot of energy out of difficult situations, like a great audience or people shouting. Then he pulls his energy out of that. Now that's gone. Now, suddenly, you need to pull all the energy for the guy next to you. You need to get your energy out of the team. Because yes, some matches I'm watching on TV, you can hear the line-out calls, you can hear the calls in the scrums. So that's so new for me, because we played in front of full stadiums, but that's gone now. So that's going to be definitely a challenge. But like Pierre said earlier, I think the guys are so professional. They know what to do to be at the best coming the weekend.
All right, I think we can jump into chatting about team selection now. We'll start off with the British and Irish Lions and the side that they chose. Bakkies, I'll start with you and Alan Wynne-Jones. He was ruled out just before the Test series. Obviously, he dislocated his shoulder against Japan. He's made a miraculous recovery. He's back in the starting lineup, captaining the side. He's a guy that you two played against back in 2009. That's the caliber of the man and the quality of the professional that he is. Yes. How big is it for them to have him back leading the side?
Yeah, just a quick one. Professional times has changed. He dislocated his shoulder. The second test, I clean the prop out. He's dislocated his shoulder. So a few years later, maybe he could have played in the third test at prop. So times has changed, eh? So yeah, no, but it's amazing. I think Gatlin loves to have him back in the squad. He's a phenomenal leader. He showed it in the Six Nations and in the Wales setup. So yeah, it's good to have him back. And yeah, coming this weekend, he's definitely going to be at his best to play against the best.
Odwa, just looking at the backline, Dan Biggar starting ahead of Owen Farrell, and then Ali Price ahead of Conor Murray. Were you surprised by that decision? And what do you think the coach's thoughts were there?
Well, Dan Biggar's one, I wasn't surprised. I think when you looked at the first game that he played against Japan, he definitely showed a lot of class. And I think what's good is coming into this Lions tour, having really done well for his club and for Wales, having won the Six Nations. So he's a player that's high on confidence, and he brings composure. And obviously Warden knows him quite well. And when at a tough test match like this, you need that kind of fly half that does his basics well. In terms of Ali Price, I think it is a bit surprising, but granted that he's been doing well. I think he started 3 of the 6 games. So, and I think out of those 3 scrum ups, he was one that was showing a lot of form. So perhaps Conor Murray would have been disappointed, firstly losing the captaincy and now not making the starting lineup. But I think it's something that I spoke about earlier, which just creates that competition within the squad. I'm sure he'll still have a huge role to play when he comes in the second half. So that's where I'm quite interested is how that centre pairing is going to go, because they haven't actually played one game together. So it's going to be interesting to see how they quickly settle, and because they're up against 2 of the best center combination in the world. So that would be interesting for me to see how that combination goes.
I think a lot of people thought that Bundee Aki was probably going to start at 12 and Robbie was going to be in the number 13 jumper. So I 100% agree with you. And at test match level, you're going against the Alendi and who are World Cup winners. So I just want to throw it over to you, Pierre. Courtney Lawes playing at 6. He typically plays at lock for England. Your thoughts on that selection, and then also Jack Conan at 8. He's a big mobile number 8 for Ireland.
Yeah, I think Warren Gatton wanted to bulk up the forwards. Getting Courtney Lawes in there is a great defender, very physical defender, obviously very tall and physical. So they're looking to stamp down their physicality on the box, and competing in lineouts. They're going to have a massive impact at the back. And then but again, he's playing out of position, so it might be again 1 or 2 steps out of sync, which might bite them. And then I think number 8's been proving himself the whole season, and he's been really playing well for Leinster. And even now playing for the British Irish Lions. So, he's proven why he needs to be there. So, Jack's going to do really well.
Before we move on to the Springbok squad that was named, I'm just going to take another question here from the YouTube comments from Belinda Glenn. What do you think of the water boy controversy? I see Gatlin and now ex-ref are saying it should be stopped. So if you go and look back in 2009, Monty was the guy who was bringing on the water for you guys, and obviously he's got an earpiece in his ear. He's bringing on messages from the coach. Right now, the water boy is Rassie Erasmus, and Warren Gatlin was basically saying, you know, when Rassie's the water boy, he needs to remember to carry his water bottle on the field with him because he was running on without a water bottle. Do you think we might see stuff like that stopping in the future, just because, you know, you've got a guy like Rassie who's the brains trust of the Springboks bringing on the messages?
Yeah, I think, well, if the laws allow you to do it, you know, obviously...
You can't argue.
Yeah, you can't argue about it. And then, you know, Rassie will always, you know, push that envelope as far as possible.
You might remember the water bottle.
And somebody like Warren Gatlin will always respond because he also likes to get, you know, involved in media. And then that's another big part of the Lions series is the media impact and then what can happen within a week. So even between the games, you know, what happens in the social lives of the players, etc. There's massive media attention that can swing focus and momentum. So that's what makes it so interesting.
Yeah, but I must say, Rassie climbs the ladder because we started Rassie when he coaches the Free State.
Yeah.
He was sitting on the top
on the
of the roof
with the lights.
With the lights. So every time there's a penalty and kick out, all the forwards will look up on top of the pavilion, and then Rassie will throw a green light or a yellow light. Then they know what move to do, and that's Rassie. Eh?
Yeah.
And you guys mention it. If it's in the rule book, you can't do it. But I'll promise you, if they gonna make a choice or decide in the future, Rassie will make a new plan.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely. Rassie's got a bag full of plans, eh?
He does have a pocket full of tricks, 100%. All right, well, we're going to move on to the Springbok team selection now. And my first talking point, we touched on it a little bit earlier, Oxenchair starting at loosehead prop. He's been fantastic for the Sharks in my mind. There were some question marks around the SAA scrum when they faced the Lions about a week ago. How did you guys think he went there? And I think he's deserving of a start in the number one jumper. What do you think?
No, definitely. I loved Oxenchair since he's been playing for Free State, and I think this is the first big matchup that he's got getting the opportunity. And and I think Don is doing amazing work with the forwards and scrum wise. And the pack of forwards that's been chosen this weekend, Oxenchair and the guys there up front, they're going to definitely give it all. And then the bomb squad's going to come up, and then it's just a next level. So definitely with a pack of forwards starting just to lay the platform, yes, I'm looking forward to it, and especially scrum-wise, line-out drive-wise, and just getting stuck into it, get a physical battle going and get the forward momentum. We're going to have a beautiful day of rugby and a nice barbecue.
A nice barbecue with some of your boerewors as well, Bakkies. Let's talk about the Springboks number 8, Odwa. We'll come back to you in a second to chat about the backs. Kwagga Smith starting at number 8. He's a dynamic 7 specialist. He really brings something different to the Springbok pack. When you put his name next to Dwayne Vermeulen, you really can't get two more different players aside from the physicality that they both bring. What do you think Kwagga's going to bring for the Springboks this weekend?
Yeah, I think one thing that counts for him is he's very underrated.
Yep.
And he's an exceptional player that doesn't always get seen by all the work he does. He's extremely fast. He's really good in all his basics, highly skilled. He's great on the ground, and a very strong defender also. So he's very similar to Dwayne Vermeulen. He's just not as big and heavy.
Yeah.
But again, he's a lot quicker. So we've got a big pack, and this is the thing, he's got everything in his favour because, when people don't know what to expect, that's a perfect opportunity to perform. So I believe Kwagga's going to have a great game, and he was part of the World Cup team. He was part of the All Blacks victory that we had in 2018 in New Zealand. So people don't realise that he's been part of the setup the whole time, and he was part of the team actually when they beat the All Blacks in New Zealand. So he's settled in the squad and also in experience. And I think that's what Jacques went for in this test.
Does he remind you a little bit about of Heinrich Brousseau and what he brought to the box in 2009?
Yeah, and many people would say that Arnie was also too small, but the reality is, its really size doesn't matter at all. It's about the function, it's about the effective role that they play and the impact they have on the game. So, and I believe, he's going to make a big impact coming this Saturday.
Odwa, I'm going to throw it over to you. We chatted to Jacques Ninabe earlier on in the week, and obviously Magazole Mapimpi's back in the starting lineup. So is Handré Pollard, but more so on Mapimpi coming back in. Spoo Nkosi's played fantastically well, but I think Magazole was definitely one of the standouts in 2019, and he really made a name for himself. It's fantastic to see him back in the mix. And do you think he's just going to hit 100% straight away?
Well, I hope so. And I'm sure so is many South Africans. Yeah, but you know what? I think looking at that selection of that backline is obviously rewarding the guys that did the job for them in 2019. It's a settled team, and I think it must have been the deciding thing. Must have been the how the guys understand the system, because of how the Boks defend. It's quite a difficult position for a guy that is not used to that system, and I think we saw glimpses of it when Spoo came on. I think in the World Cup against Wales, he struggled a little bit. So. To see how Mapimpi is going to go, I think Mapimpi is a world-class player. He's proven it a number of times. I remember when he came back from his stint in Japan and he played a game for the Sharks. It looks like he hasn't lost his touch at all. And I'm sure they would have seen enough at training this week to say that he's definitely ready. It is a big. It's unfortunate for Spoo missing out, but you know what, Mapimpi is a world class, and I'm sure Spoo at some stage will get a game. So, but that backline looks settled, and I'm sure they can definitely do the job behind that solid pack that they've selected.
Bakkies made mention of the bomb squad, a pragmatic approach from the Springbok coaching staff, just considering that both Pollard and Mapimpi are coming back from a bout of COVID. And his reasoning behind that was he might have been inclined to go for that 6-2 split, but they didn't go for it. They chose those three backs on the bench just because Pollard might pull up with cramp 50 minutes in. How important was that decision, Odwa?
Well, I think firstly, Gareth, you need to look at the personnel that you have. And I think we were quite fortunate in 2019 to have Arge Snyman, a fit Lord Diaga, that they can come off the bench and make a massive impact, with all due respect to the current players that are there available to Jacques. I don't think they bring the same intensity, the same impact off the bench. And you've also mentioned it, that Handré hasn't played a lot. He only played the first test against Georgia, and Magazole is also the same. So in that case, when you go for that 6-2, it's important to know that your backs, all of them can potentially go a full 80 minutes. So when you have those question marks, you cannot but go with three backs on the bench, and I guess you need that specialist fly half with Elton, and you can also see that they don't really see Damian Willemse as a fly half cover, but more of a utility back. And I think you see the best of him when he doesn't have that pressure of having to control and be the general. When he's got the freedom, that's when you see the best of Damian. And it's nice that they're molding him into the new Francois Steyn. He's done really well when he's come off the bench. He brings the physicality, he brings the X factor. So I think it's quite a nice balanced bench. And I think the biggest thing will be the team that goes the full 80, especially for the Boks that haven't played a lot of games. The bench is crucial. I don't think they'll come on quite too late in the game. They'll probably come on with 20-30 minutes and hopefully bring that impact.
Just to finish off with the Springbok squad, they've got fantastic options at lock, Bakkies, but really, really sad to see a guy like Arge Snyman have no role to play in the tour because of that unfortunate incident in Ireland. Just your thoughts on him as a lock? He really has changed the mold.
Yes, no, definitely, and amazing. It's just a pity with his bad injury he had overseas and then coming back with that fire.
Yeah.
It's very sad. But even with a guy like Lood, yes, how many months that he actually played competitive rugby? He's on the bench, so
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to use him. But it will be awesome to see him back on the pitch. So, but with Mostert and Etzebeth there in the engine room, I think they will definitely produce the goods this weekend in lockwise. And then if it's definitely in need, I think Jacques will put on Lood, because Lood's got a special character. I think he will flame up the pack of forwards again and just put a little bit of extra energy into it when he comes onto the pitch.
We're going to start wrapping up now, but I just wanted to pick your guys' thoughts on the lack of crowds in particular, and if it will actually have any effect on the Springboks and the physicality that they're going to bring on Saturday. Spies, maybe you can start with that.
No, I don't think so. I think the guys are really well prepared, and like we've said also, the professional era and the way teams are training, and so we know what the surroundings will be. And we also know that we cannot use anything as an excuse. So both teams playing on the same field without any crowds. And there's a job to be done. So there needs to be great execution. There needs to be being calm under pressure. You know, you never know how the game will unfold. So maybe you have to chase it from the start, whatever. So, you know, the guys have to be very calm. And that's where I think, you know, our composure and experience will count a lot. So, but having the crowds not there, obviously not ideal.
It's just the last one for you, Bakkies. Warren Gatland earlier this week said that they'd dented the Springboks' confidence with the way they'd bossed the set pieces against SAA last week. Like we mentioned, you know, the scrums in particular probably weren't as good as the Springbok coaching staff would have liked. Do you think that's just going to rev the South African guys up?
Oh, definitely. I think that's just media talk. And I think the more they talk in the media, the more aggressive the guys just want to come out and prove the guys wrong. And I think, again, at the end of the day, the guys, when they cross that white chalk, they just want to get stuck into it and set the tone physically wise. And that's what Rassie and the coaching team did so well. We went back, what made Springbok rugby so special over the decades, to get physically into the scrum time, into the line-out drives, and just get stuck into it, and brutal, carrying the ball up front, and just to run over players, quick ball, create space for the guys and the great backs we're playing with this weekend. So yeah, and without crowds, I think Pierre mentioned it. It's the guys are professional, but I think it's a positive for the tight five, because you know some forwards, when they get tired, they start getting deaf because they don't listen. But now without crowds, they will listen for a while, and they will know what's the right calls that we're going to be called in the scrum and in the lineouts. So it's a positive.
There you have it. The positive out of the negative, 100%. Okay, before we wrap things up, let's get some predictions. Odwa, you first. What do you think the scoreline's going to be?
Well, I think, you know, it's definitely a special occasion for the players. You know, we all know what a special tour this is, the one that they'll definitely be looking forward to. But if I go a lot on what happened on Wednesday, and I thought we just brought the physicality, brought the intensity that the Lions were not used to, and they couldn't live with that. And it won't be any different on Saturday. So. But in saying that, it won't be a runaway comfortable victory. I think it's going to be quite a close one, but I see the Boks winning that one by maybe 5 or 6 points.
All right. Pierre, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I would say, you know, it's going to be a maximum 7-point game, maximum, you know, or a 3-point victory. I think the Springboks have a lot of confidence, which is good. But we should just, like, how can I say, use it correctly, because it can also bite you and get you flat-footed. So, but I think we're going into the game well prepared. You know, we've got a lot of experience. So I'm also saying the same as Odwa. I think it's going to be 5 or 7 points in the Boks' favour.
Bakkies, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm going to put up a score, 22-27 for the Boks.
Okay.
And Curry said it, I think yesterday or today. He said it. Listen, they're looking forward to the physical battle, and he mentioned it. It's not going to be 10 minutes, 20 minutes. It's going to be 80 full minutes of physical test rugby. And the big question for me is the British and Irish Lions going to cope for 80 minutes with full physical Springbok rugby. Even when the bomb squad comes on to the pitch, then it's business. Then you're going to look at the scoreline. Where are we? Are we 5 points ahead, 5 points behind? And I think that's where the difference is going to come in this weekend, to make that big difference physically-wise, because they know, listen here, we battled out now 60 minutes. Now this guy is coming off from the bench. It's going to be not another 60 minutes. It's going to feel like another 80. So from my side, I think the Springboks is going to pull it through 27-22. Right. So looking forward to a brilliant physical Springbok test match with a lekker braaivleis.
Fantastic. There you go. 27-22 is what Bakkies reckons. I like that scoreline. In my mind, it was something very similar. And you guys know you've beaten the British and Irish Lions, so we'll take your word for it. Odwa, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Durban. Enjoy the test match this Saturday. Bakkies, Pierre, thank you so much for being so giving with your time. We really, really appreciate your insights. And to you, the fans, thank you so much for joining us. Remember, if you're with MTN, you can also tackle the Bokke Trivia. It's a rugby-themed subscription service that awards subscribers with daily rounds of Bokke Trivia questions on the web and mobile game. This is how you get involved. Go to bokketrivia.mtn.co.za. You're going to subscribe to Bokke Trivia for just R3 a day, and the first day is free. That's how much we like you. One round of the Bokke Trivia web game includes 15 rugby-themed questions. You're going to swipe right for the correct answers and left for the wrong ones. And at the end of each round, your correct answers are converted into points for the grand and weekly cash prize draws. So test your rugby knowledge and stand a chance to win big, including your share of R1 million in cash. That is the MTN Bokke Trivia. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll catch you next week for our next MTN Fireside chat with some Springbok legends.
Say hello to Bokke Trivia, an exciting rugby trivia game to test your Springbok knowledge and win big. Visit bokketrivia.mtn.co.za and subscribe for only R3 a day and be the one to beat. Answer 15 questions in 5 minutes. Just swipe right for yes or left for no. Build up points and stand a chance to win big with Bokke Trivia. With weekly cash prizes and more. Stand a chance to win your share of R1 million. One of 100 signed Springbok jerseys. One of 10 autographed framed Springbok replica jerseys. Or one of 100 Springbok hampers. It's go time Bokke. Everywhere you go, MTN.